All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. It's Monday, May 1st, 2023. Read the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of First Nations, such as the Hadawin-Daronic and the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past, present, in promoting the wise stewardship of lands on which we live. Are there any declarations of interest? Nope. All right, so we're going to adopt the agenda. So can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Mr. Woods and second, Mr. McCulloch. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Then pass. So we're going to adopt the minutes from Monday, May 3rd, 2023. So can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes? Yeah, Mr. Vandermas, and seconder, we have Councillor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, first on the agenda list today, 6.1, we have pickleball in the White Arena. James Fraser is going to present. I'll call in James Fraser for repurposing of the White Arena. Can you turn your mic? Just the green button. There's a, well, it'll flash green, just the push.
Anyhow, thanks for allowing me to come and speak to you again tonight. I'm here to ask you today for to recommend our proposal to the City of Thorold City Council. I'm also hoping that you'll direct the council to develop estimates of renovation costs for the arena. Plus maybe gathering some sort of idea of operating costs. I think this will help when ultimately I present to City Council. Again, if you recommend that. I would also like to point out that NIPA is it will be totally a nonprofit and not for profit association. I trust you've all got my letter in advance and have read that. So I don't think there's any need for me to go over it. Another point I'd like to make, and maybe it'll sweeten the pie a bit. We also look at this as maybe a possibility of being a senior and retiree social place, a place to gather. Maybe not on the floor, but maybe in the clubhouse kind of area. And I think that's it. Is there any questions that you might have?
I'll open the floor to our committee here if anyone has any questions. I know we have some online as well. So Mr. Woods.
I'm sorry, excuse me, but I'm a little bit hard of hearing.
Yeah, no worries. I did turn my mic on. I apologize.
Okay, there.
Your comment of the senior gathering spot, and you said it was in the clubhouse. So that would be the main hallway where the canteen is, or on the other side where the change rooms are. Would that be repurposed into a more enclosed area so that you guys would be situated off that side parking lot?
You have 4 change rooms in the back, and I would be looking to have that converted into like a members lounge.
Okay.
Perhaps just, a small kitchen, 2 washrooms, that kind of thing.
Well, my major question after your initial your initial report was, would you be willing, like, if you use that middle space in conjunction with the Thorold's arena and just expand the canteen area into a more like for dual sides, You could use that kitchen with an expansion to give you guys an eating area, and then you would move into the further side to do your courts. Is that something you guys would explore?
I think we could use that spot initially. Your washrooms are nice there. You have a place to get coffee and drinks and a snack or two. So it could serve well.
Okay.
But I would really like to have that members lounge.
Okay, something separate, like a separate room just for
I would.
members only. Okay. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
All right, any other questions? Ms. Hanson.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, Peter and Marcia have their hands up online.
All right, Marcia.
Thank you very much. After speaking to some pickleball people who are loving the
Sorry, Marcia,
idea.
I think you're muted.
No, I'm on.
Okay, that just must be your audio. 1 second.
Does Peter want to go ahead? Marcia sorts out her audio.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Check, test one.
I can hear you, Peter.
I can hear you too, Marcia, but maybe they can't hear us there.
I can hear people.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh,
We
now
can
we
hear
can,
you.
yep.
Perfect. Sorry. So we had a power outage over the weekend, so our projector's not working. So we're just doing it off the laptop. But you're good to go now. If you just want to speak loudly, please.
Marcia, over to you first, because you were called first.
Why, thank you. Would you consider for the stage 1, just moving in as is and using the existing dry land as your pickleball courts? And then as it picks up and you have more money to spend, then expanding? Could you start with the stage 1 of what we have so we don't have to invest too much more money into it?
Cement floor is not a good way to start. I have to drive people here. They're because it's an ideal place to play. It's a dedicated place to play. So to really make it popular, I need that floor done. And I need it to be safe. I need it to be partitioned. I need proper posts and nets. As far as renovations, it could be done in stages, maybe over a year or two. But to play on a cement floor, they might as well stay at the Hague and play. It doesn't offer any better choice. The lighting is very poor. The lighting has to be done pretty much right away as well.
Understand.
This with a new floor. When I say a new floor, it's coated with 5 coats of rubberized substance and then painted with the colors of the court. The nets would be put up, the dividers would be put between the courts. And we could exist that way as long as the lighting was done as well.
Thank you.
Do you have any further questions, Marcia, or can I move on to Peter?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Peter?
Can you hear me okay?
Just vaguely.
I will try my best and speak as loud as I can. I did hear you just say they might as well continue to play at the Hague. Do you mean like the Hague Bowl Arena?
The Hague Bowl Arena, yes.
Can I ask, have you approached the city of St. Catharines with this idea and what their reply was, if you have?
Kind of opposed, but not concerning the Hague. The Hague is run by a ball hockey association. And I believe they have a lease agreement with the city, a favorable lease agreement with the city of St. Catharines. And that ball hockey association is a for-profit organization.
So you're not gonna get, I guess they're not going, like, there's nothing for you to expand or move at the Hague then, the way it is today.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you.
I guess at the Hague Bowl, then your options are limited. They're not prepared to entertain any kind of pickleball facility for you there.
No, they have, it's a cement floor, they have 6 courts that they set up. They operate 3 days a week.
So you currently, like, I like Marcia's idea. I'm going to be transparent here. I like Marcia's idea for you to move in as is. You're currently playing on cement floor, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I just think that before I'm prepared to recommend any kind of significant expenditure from the taxpayers of the city of Thorold, we'd like to kind of see how this develops. And I think that it would make sense to do this one step at a time, as opposed to make a big capital expenditure, which may require operating costs to maintain it until we can really see what is going to happen. I did read your letter, and you say that you have revenue stream of approximately $200,000 initially. Do you have any breakout of how many members that is? What kind of fees you're charging? Do you have any kind of a breakout on that number?
Yeah, we have a total breakdown of it.
I'm not sure. Were you able to provide us that or no?
I can do. I thought that would be something I would be more interested in than city council would be interested, but I can provide it to you.
I guess, I mean, from my point of view, anytime I'm going to make a recommendation, I like to make sure we have some ideas of where this is coming from. That's all. But I would also say, what about from an insurance point of view? If somebody gets injured on a court, what experience have you had from people getting injured? And what kind of insurance do you have that people are protected so that the city has no liability there?
A good question. Currently, when you join the club, you join not only the club, but you use Pickleball Ontario, and they have insurance that covers it. Now, I'd have to look into that to find out if it would cover that particular facility. If not, then we'd have to generate something through the city or through the club itself. But I don't think that's a big issue.
Well, it's never an issue until it happens, I think. And I think in my comments are that I think your idea has merit. I think that it's a very good opportunity for us to consider, but I think we would need some more details. At least I would like more details before I'm able to really recommend, that I ask city staff to or even city council to think about, the resources that this would need. I would like to see some more things there. And in a sense of, like, does your nonprofit association also have, like, can anybody be a member, or is it restricted by age?
Anybody could be a member.
Okay.
No
all right. I think I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, many people play pickleball on outdoor courts that are concrete, correct?
They play on the tarmac,
Yeah, like pavement or tar or outside. They play at a lot of the city outdoor facilities, though, correct?
there is.
And I believe that's a similar substance to the existing floor in the arena. I understand why you want it, and I applaud that. I just think it's a little premature and early for where the renovation cost you suggest is between $500,000 to $1 million for that. And I think it's, if step by step, once stage one, see how it goes, and if you grow into it and it continues the popularity that it's showing today, then I think perhaps there's an opportunity in the future. That would be my comment, Chair. Thank you.
We could stage it that way. It's very possible. It would be about $100,000 to do the floor, the complete floor of the course. I'd like to point out too that I read through the rental of the old Thor Arena, and I believe they wanted $561 a day. The 365 days, that's a little over $200,000 revenue. So our organization would be bringing in $200,000 minimum to start. I should say to start, hopefully to start. And it would only rise from there. So I see it as a very good plus. And you can't ignore the fact that the impact on seniors and retirees here. They're going to be using that for most of the day. Again, adults, working adults in the evening. And with high schools or kids in the afternoon, you know, later on after school. So
Ja-
basically,
Yeah.
a 14-hour-a-day operation.
James, if I can, how long has Niagara Indoor Pickleball Association been in existence?
About 2 years now.
2 years. And how many members do you currently have?
I have over 120 supportive members.
Do they pay, and they, like 120 members that pay a fee to belong to your club?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Does that mean you have 120 members that pay a fee to belong to your club?
They are in support of the club only.
So it costs, there's no fee to join the Niagara Indoor Pickleball Association.
Oh, not yet. And
Do
I
you,
think it's nothing more than an idea put forward to try to get dedicated indoor pickleball into the Niagara region to service the people of the Niagara.
so where, can you just, and I'm sorry, I don't know where the money, the $200,000 and where is your revenue coming from?
The revenue is going to come from A, membership, and 2, for hourly rental of the courts.
So the city would have nothing to do with the hourly rental. That would all be done through your association.
It could be done different ways. Could be done through us, it could be done through the city. I would be open to either one. My whole point is to get dedicated indoor pickleball up and going.
Are you aware if there's any other facilities like this in any other municipality?
Yes, there is. There's 4 courts in London, which is a for-profit company. And they're charging about $25 an hour per court. There's Kingston, Ontario. They just did 6 new, they renovated a factory and put in 6 pickleball courts with the rubberized flooring, painted courts, the whole thing.
And James, my last question for you is if we were to just sort of jump the shark and let's assume that this rubberized flooring was installed, and then for whatever reason, the Niagara Indoor Pickleball Association was no longer able or needed that facility, what is required and what is required to remove the rubberized flooring? And is that an environmental concern later on for the city potentially?
We have no idea. You know, I can tell you that, you know, pickleball is nothing but growing. I do not see it disappearing. So I don't think.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Tony, you had your hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions have been asked and asked.
I believe next was Councillor Simpsons.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, appreciate you coming again today. I know pickleball is very large, very big. I wouldn't mind seeing pickleball there. I just feel that we need more information and maybe get the grants first before we started putting money into it, because there's things that the chair said last time. There's a bunch of things that need to be done before it can be played. Pickleball or anything else can be played in there. So I to recommend it today, I can't do that, but I like the idea. I hope the future does go through with something like this. But I think we need to do grants and more of a business plan to figure out how we can do it together. But I would start with the grants first and then see what money we have and then go from there. I applaud this and I know it's huge, I know it's growing, but I just need more to make a recommendation. So, thank you.
I understand that, but would you apply for the grants? This committee apply for the grants?
Sorry, was that the understanding? Are you applying for, that's maybe,
We wouldn't apply for the grants.
you wouldn't apply for.
It's a city's building and we only expect the city council to go after those grants. So in order for this to move on, I would need your recommendation to present this to the city. And that's what I'm asking. So they're ultimately gonna have to make that decision on a financial basis, on a senior retiree basis, a usage basis, the whole thing.
I understand all that, I agree with all that, but to me, it's a little bit, I'm trying to be standoffish, I'm with you on this. It just needs to be the cart before the horse, that if we say, yes, we recommend this, but we don't have the money, we don't have a set plan, we don't have anything in place when it gets to council, the council's gonna say, well, what is it? What is the plan? How do we get the money? I don't know. Is there grants out there? I don't know, because it's an expensive fix, so that's just where I am. I don't know about everybody else. Sorry.
You know, I approached the city of Pelham to get the 6 outdoor dedicated pickleball courts in Centennial Park. And I met with the city council just direct. There wasn't a Parks and Recreation committee to go through. So, thank goodness. But they heard. And they adopted it and they went after grants. They agreed to go after the grants. Once they got the grants, they okayed the project. So I can only see this going to city council to make those decisions. You know, I come here today, I thought that the Parks and Rec Committee would think about it and say, hey, it's a good idea. Why don't you present it to city council? We think it's a good idea. I didn't ask you to be committed to the financial part of it. It's just, what else are you gonna do with a marina? They don't come around every day. It's a huge opportunity for pickleball. So to me, the bones are pretty good. The roof looks great. The cement floor is flat. So to resurface it, yeah, we could resurface it and use it with new lighting probably right away. And then grow from there. So I definitely can provide you with our projection, our financial projection, to show you where our revenue, where our expected revenue was to come from.
So, Sydney, if it's not a recommendation for this to go forward, do they actually need a recommendation to come and present business plan or talk to council?
For you, Mr. Chair, I believe it would be preferred if they would have it'd be preferred if there'd be a motion that they would present at council and then we'll go through Matthew, just since that's the chain we're trying to go through. You could try reach out to Matthew directly and see if he would like to present. But I think since Matthew pushed it to this committee, ideally it would be based on this committee, how it proceeds forward.
So if we said, okay, we recommend coming to council to speak and come with a business plan and numbers, but not recommend the project, we could do that today.
Yes, you could make a recommendation that he presents at council.
Okay, I'll hold off and vote on this.
Mr. Wood, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just talking over, not that I have numbers or anything like that, but looking at like an asset management plan and feasibility of something like this being built. In terms of its service life, the city of Niagara Falls did a 2022 park improvement plan. They installed that rubberized material on all their outdoor tennis courts to create pickleball situations for their outdoor courts. So they have like an average annual of 25 years, and that's the minimum estimation. We actually don't know how long it's going to last at this point. The minimum long bank is 25 years for that before it gets installed.
Marcia.
One of the things they did at the tennis courts in Pelham is the Pelham Club at that time got the city to okay resurfacing the courts. And they went on the hook for the amount of money to resurface those courts. So yes, if the courts were set up and coded and after 10, 15, 20 years, it needed to be redone. I'm sure that the pickleball club per se would come up and could finance, work out a plan with the city to pay the city back any debt that they incurred for doing that.
I see Marcia, you have your hand up. Marcia. No.
Robert?
Robert? Robert,
Anybody hear me?
hear you loud and clear.
I have to tell you, I don't think it's just my headphones, but everything I'm hearing is so garbled. I can't make out a word that anybody says. Now I could hear Marcia and Peter clearly, but anything from the floor is just garbled. So I don't even know what you guys were saying. I just had a couple of questions and you might have even answered them, but I have no way of knowing. Is there any way to get a better feed or something? Like it sounds like you just got a speaker in the middle of the room and everybody's just talking into it.
What we have today. There is Miss Sydney had pointed out at the beginning of the meeting, had some power outages at the city hall here over the weekend, and they having a hard time fixing the projector and the sound system.
Well, I couldn't even make out what you just said. I don't know if anybody else is having this problem.
We can hear him.
Yeah.
Hi, are you able to hear us better talking this way or
I can hear you.
sorry, are you able to hear us better this way?
I can hear, I was hearing you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Robert, are you able to hear us?
I hear you now clearly.
Sorry, we're just listening.
Are you waiting for me?
Yes.
Well, the question I was going to ask, if by, okay, excuse me if I'm repeating myself or repeating, but if there was a lease provided by the city to the Pickleball Association, they would pay rent. Would they also be responsible for the cost of utilities, or are they expecting the city to pay for that? That's my question to the presenter.
It's a city. Well. And we would pay the operator. You know, I don't consider that to be a big cost. It's not as if it's gonna have ice in there anymore. So it should be a fairly minor cost to operate. I hope that answers your question.
Do we have any other questions? I have one thing. I know you want to use the arena because it's a bigger space. And you can fit
I'll try that.
All right, so my question is, it's more of a suggestion than a question. You said, so if you had the full arena, I believe last meeting you had mentioned you can get 6 upwards to 8, maybe 9 courts going at once. And without the renovation, like the boards, everything's still in, was it 4 to 6 courts?
As the arena sits now, you would have 6 courts in there
Okay.
with spacing and dividers in between them.
Yeah, we do like the way when I was looking at this was, you know, it's a great use for the facility, something else to do, but we do have other facilities in the city that maybe not city owned, but depending on what happens, we have the Holy Rosary Hall. I'm not sure if you're aware of the building there.
No, I'm not.
So there's Holy Rosary Church, it's on Sullivan Avenue, and they have a hall. I'm not saying it's abandoned, but it's rarely ever used other than maybe a roast beef night for the Knights of Columbus. And the church has been trying to sell this facility so they could renovate the basement of the church. It has something to do with the parking. There's ample parking, there's washrooms, there's a kitchen, there's a meeting room.
Is this the Allenberg?
No, this is downtown Thorold.
I don't know it.
It's the biggest church in, not gonna say Niagara, but it's one of the biggest churches. It's definitely the biggest church in Thorold. They have a facility right across, directly across the street with tons of parking. But nobody's wanted to buy the facility, and it has a full gymnasium with a stage. You could probably fit 4 to 6 courts in that facility, and it's used for absolutely nothing right now. It's already a gym floor, but it has a million markings from, I would say, I went there as a kid in, 1980s. So it's been there for a very long time, but it might be one of those suggestions that maybe, I don't know, Mr. Sentence, if the city was willing to, maybe somehow buy this facility and lease, operate something, come to some sort of agreement with the pickleball. And I don't know if it's going to suit your needs, but to me, when I'm thinking of, proximity to downtown, where it is, it fits the needs of what you're looking for. And it still needs the same, actually, it would need a lot less money put into it to bring it up to what you need.
That's a good point. It would probably be just 4 courts, and I don't know how crowded it would be. I'd have to have a look at it, and I would be willing to look at it.
Okay.
They
do have
the
a
address of this place after. I'll take the time and I'll look at it.
Sure, because they do have they have a full gymnasium, and then like I said, they have another portion of the building that has a kitchen, has washrooms, and it has another smaller gymnasium down the hallway. So it's one of those things, like if you're doing in stages, as you're recommending before, of maybe moving in and do in a phasing sort of thing, this could be a phasing operation as well.
Yeah, one of the reasons I like the Thorold Arena, high ceilings, high roof.
Yeah, the gymnasium has extremely high ceiling.
You also have an ice arena right next door, which I believe isn't used in the summertime. I could use that facility in the summertime if I was going to host tournaments. Tournaments are a big thing with pickleball. There's a lot of revenue, a lot of activity that occurs. I could go into a lot of detail, but I won't. So there was always that possibility. But thank you for your suggestion. I will look this place up and visit it if I can.
And typically the tournaments that are taking place right now, are they done at the Canada Games Park, or are they done like anything that you've done in the past, like say last summer? What was the last tournament? Like, where was that hosted?
We haven't
Not
run a
yet.
tournament.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
There's tournaments being run basically all the time. One took place at the Y in Port Colborne just about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
There's one that's a huge one that's going to take place at Niagara-on-the-Lake with the 2 arenas there. That's going to be in June. The Kingston hosts the National, and that's well over 1,000 players that come.
Okay. All right, Mr. Sentence.
I don't mean to be a wet blanket, but
the city, as I was told early on, is not in the real estate business, so I don't want to get your hopes up to think the city is going to buy the facility. But for sure, if they're looking to, if you're talking about grants and they're looking to sell or use or lease the space, you should go take a look and maybe talk to the church and see. I'd just like to make a motion that I would recommend that they recommend them, your group coming to city council and presenting with a business plan, with numbers, with ideas, but not a recommendation for the project today. But if that's what you would like to do, to come talk to city hall, to city council, then by all means, but come again. We can talk about grants and stuff like that there, but come with your numbers when you come. So anyways, I would like to make a motion to recommend them coming to city hall to talk to council. That makes
Mr.
sense?
Makes sense. Mr. Vanderwas.
It's certainly an intriguing idea. However, with the information that we have, I'm really not comfortable about recommending your project in any way at this particular time. I'm not at all confident that you would be able to pick back the money or cover your operating costs, and in all conscience, being a former city councilor and having been on committees for years, I can't in all conscience stick taxpayers with this possible future liability. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Vandermas. So it looks like we have a motion by Councillor Sentence on the floor. So do I have a seconder? So we have two. So do we vote? So can I take a vote? All in favor? 3, 4. So is Robert's hand still up from his previous question? Sorry, 1, 2, 3. We have 4. And how many online? 5. Robert, do you vote yes or no? Because you have your hand up. Is that a yes or a no?
That's a yes.
Yes. So we have 4, 5, 6. So, and a call for no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it passed. Yeah, it passes. It's a 6-5 vote.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you for the presentation.
Would you still like to see the financials?
I believe you'll have to present those to council.
Okay, we'll just present it there then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tough audience.
Yes, Marcia.
Just for clarification to you, that wasn't. Sorry, through you, the chair, was that a motion of recommendation from our board or just for them to go to council? Just for clarification?
It was just a recommendation for them to present to council, but we haven't recommended the project.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Basically just for them to present their business plan to council.
Thank you.
Move on to our next item of correspondence. And funny, we talked about this in our very first meeting. So correspondence 7.1 PTRC 2-2023. Overgrown canal pathway from Lock 7 to St. Catharines. This is brought forward by the Tourism Advisory as a concern. Is there any discussion? No, I'll leave the floor open. I know we did discuss this briefly, and I don't believe it's our plan. So any questions, any comments? Anyone want to start? I see George. George.
Muted.
George, you're muted.
All right, we on now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm also on the tourism committee, and that was actually my suggestion. And I think what I think we need from the city is a commitment that they'll stay ahead of the overgrowth as it grows in from the railway tracks onto the path, as opposed to people complaining and them doing the maintenance reactively.
Okay, so trees down, cut their brush down. So is this a recommendation to get council to coordinate with the railroad owners to do the maintenance ahead of time, say starting in the spring?
I doubt that the railway is going to do anything.
Understood. Would it be somewhere they have an agreement with the city and it's our employees that go ahead and do the maintenance?
Well, I guess it's something that the city could look into to see if there's any chance that the railway will maintain the path, the overgrowth as it grows onto the pathway. But I know that city employees do go along and hack off the brush and branches that are growing in through the fence.
Perfect. Any other comments with anyone? Yeah.
Almost since it was built. It used to be that the neighbors who lived at the top there every once in a while would sneak over there with their chainsaws and whatnot and cut it down themselves. But most of those people have died or moved away now. The last time it was done by the city. It was rather expensive because the railway has to do it themselves. They have a special piece of equipment that comes in on a rail and they cut it from there. Tourism asks for this every once in a while. It seems to me that it was asked for not long before COVID broke out and kind of stopped everything, but it is a bit of a hassle getting the railway to do this. They're obviously not anxious to do this sort of thing. There's a lot of safety procedures. They have to shut down the line and block it off and do all that sort of thing. So while I'm all for it being done, that's been the history of it so far.
I
Thanks,
guess
Tony.
all we can do is get the city to ask.
Just so I can understand what is needed here, are there any city bylaws that dictate our required use to clean our land? So if there's encroachment from private citizens or private companies onto our land, are we not required to just take that property line and go up? Or you just walk over with the Sawzall and just cut it all down and then you clean up the trail?
That's what they do.
Because I'm allowed to cut my neighbor's tree, so why can't the city cut their neighbor's tree that's hanging over their property line?
I think the issue is that they're cutting it down the path. It's when it goes over the fence.
That's what I mean. You
They
walk
wanna
on our
go-
side of the
they
fence
wanna
and you just
go-
come down and cut what's there. and
I get,
just-
but they want to go, say if this is the fence and they go like this, they want to go this way and chop the top off so you can see it
understand.
over.
I understand what you're doing, but you're limited in what you can do, so you might as well do what we can do to satisfy our complaint.
They
have to
want
move
the whole hillside cut,
Yeah.
but we don't have,
Sure.
the city doesn't have any power over the.
We have power over our airspace.
Railways are federal jurisdiction and the city can't order them to do anything.
Well, we're not asking their permission if we don't go on their land, though. If
We're
you
cutting something
maintain
on
your
their land.
And we have a fence and a property line, just cut down.
Yeah, but
you don't
see,
even need to
the
ask.
property
permission,
line goes like this. They want to go this way.
But we tell our city staff not to.
But that's the whole point. But they have maintained this.
And
This
then-
is fine.
They always want.
It's that when you're walking, that your head's about here and you're looking at trees. You want this cut to here so you can see the boats, you can see the canal, you can see all.
Okay.
It's for the view, it's for the scenery.
So-
I would suggest that we have maybe the city coordinate and come into an agreement with the railway to have someone stay on our own property and go across and just because the way it grows up the hill like this, if you're just maintaining that 4 feet that's over the fence, keeping it low, I mean, that's not really.
Wouldn't that be like under the area, like we want that railroad to start working better for all these new industrial have? Wouldn't it make sense to make that a requirement to allow them to actually build?
I think the railway line is decommissioned. No, Mr. Daniels?
The issue is that they want clear vision of the locks from the trail and from the Lock 7 viewing center because what's the point in having a viewing center if you can't see the locks? Those things grow, those trees there, they grow like weeds and they will block out the entire view of Lock 7 and farther down. And that's why they always ask for these to be trimmed every so once in a while. Doesn't take long for them to grow back, even if you cut them right down to the ground, so.
Does anyone online have comments, discussion points? Seeing no, Counselor Sentence?
Yeah, I think George and I have talked about this before. And I think we tried to, I think it was Steve Santo that tried to get a hold of the railroad and tried to get something done. So I think the only thing we can do is suggest to do that again and have maybe a year, a standing order every year at the start of the year to cut them down and see if we can do something with, like you said, Chair, to do something with them. But because you can't force them to do anything. But maybe we have something where we can work with them.
Yeah, I'm thinking some sort of like or an agreement that like we can have a city worker get a PTR, like a PT, sorry, permission to enter. So they can be within the corridor, maybe they can supply a flag man, or they'll know we can do it on a day that there's not any rails coming through. So it's one of these things that it doesn't sound like it's very difficult. It just sounds like the agreement just needs to be put in place. So going about that, would that be us putting a motion to council to open more dialogue with the railway company? Is that how that gets started?
I don't know if we just need to make a recommendation to staff, ask staff to start right or wrong? No, everything's got to go through. Go ahead.
Listen,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All direct staff have to be done through council. A committee is not able to direct staff. So if you wanted to do this, you would make a recommendation that council direct staff to write a report or to look into the feasibility of this.
well, Mr. Vandermas.
I'd like to make a recommendation that council direct staff to look into the costs and procedures involved in getting the trees cut along the canal.
Second it. I'll take a vote. All in favor? Yes, and all opposed? No. Okay, so we're making a recommendation to council to have some coordination with the city and the railway to get rid of some overgrown bushes that nobody wants to look at. Okay, any further discussions? I believe no. So we're gonna move on to section 8, committee business, 8.1, and this is the proposed dog park. I'm gonna leave the floor open for any discussions. Mr. Vanderbos?
Does staff have any idea of what's holding it up? I know there was a design that went to council last year already. Is it a problem, transferring the deeds for the property? I see Counselor Sentence nodding his head, so he probably knows.
Well, I had asked this question as when we were gonna start the dog park a couple of meetings ago. And they said that we could be starting in the spring, but there was legalities that they were still working through to figure out. And then we're good to go. We got the design, we've got everything in there. I mean, this committee can make recommendations, but it's a pretty good design. It's just a legal red tape and yeah, just waiting on that stuff.
Okay, that might be a good, because is there any other discussion points for just the proposed dog park? Because it's a good segue into 8.2 with the dog park design and working group. So is it Jane Dunsmore? He's the manager of engineering, suggested we create a working group to help design the dog park. So. Well, we have a design, so. So. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Sean Dunsmore, the manager of engineering, asked me to put this on the agenda. He's looking to create a working group with the subcommittee to help further continue the design of the dog park, since there was a first one, but they're wanting to continue designing it. If there would like to be a working group, there just needs to be a motion and a maximum of 6 people on the working group to join Sean and then a few other members of the public.
Right, thanks, Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For that design working group, what specifically are you looking for, like the architectural conceptual plans of like where the benches are going to be placed, the pathways, that kind of stuff? Because every dog park I've been to is you round the perimeter and there's a bench here and there. So is that kind of just what he's looking for as a working group?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I believe that's mostly what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Can we get a the proposed design for the dog park, I'm assuming, is on the City of Thorold website. Okay. Okay. Okay, so do we want to, I'm gonna sorry, what was that? Oh, Marcia, sorry, I didn't.
Can I make a motion that we create a working group for the dog park, please?
Yes. Do I have a mover? Mr. Woods, and a seconder? She motioned second. Okay, and a vote. All in favor? And all opposed? Carried. So who would like to be a part of our working group?
I would.
Woods? Mr. Vanderbos? Marcia? Okay, so we have 3. There's a maximum of 6 people. We can have others join in, I guess, if we want further direction. Oh, well, do you have to be a part of this committee to be on the working group that's for you, Ms.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you do not have to be on the committee to be in the working group. Members of the public can also join.
Okay, so how do we advertise that to the members of the public?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will get back to you on that.
Okay.
I
No,
know Sean
I'm
spoke-
just suggesting because I mean, I'm sure everyone here that lives in the city has enough people or friends, spouses, other people that would actually jump on something like this because they're not committed to other committees and other things. Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Can we make a recommendation to council to direct the city staff who's in charge of like the city's social media accounts to add like an Instagram post or a Facebook post on those social sites, advertising? Because we have it like dedicated staff that uses that. It's just, can we ask council to direct them to make something? Hey, city, we need 3 people.
Mr. Chair, you technically could do that. I would advise if I can get some more information first on the working group and just how Sean wants it to get put together before we advertise, and then I'll bring that back to the committee before we do something like that.
Mr. Vanderwas.
I'd like to move another recommendation in connection with this, that that this information about working group be forwarded to the Lake Gibson Corridor Preservation Task Force, because this park is within the scope of the Lake Gibson corridor.
Okay. Motion, do we have a seconder? Agreed, all opposed, all in favor? Oppose and pass. Mr. Councilor Sentals. So, and when the working group is complete, does it come back to this committee before it goes to council? Is my question.
Yes, it does.
Great, thank you. Okay, so next we are on to 8.3. Is there any further questions or any more discussion on the dog park? Sounds like, yeah, okay. Next, we're going to move to 8.3, the throw pool. I'm going to turn this to Stephanie Jarvis, the program supervisor, to speak on the throw pool.
Yep, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm just providing an update on the pool. We discussed this before the meeting, but the registration for swimming lessons does begin tomorrow, May 2nd at 8:30 a.m. So that's exciting that that's getting underway. And then our first day of operation for the pool will be June 24th. Up until Labor Day weekend. We're going to be operating a similar number of swimming lessons to previous years. And as of right now, our staffing portfolio is sufficient to operate the pool at full capacity. Previous years, we had some challenges following the pandemic, making sure that we had enough staff. We had to take a couple of initiatives to make sure that we were training and providing certifications to staff in order to get enough lifeguards for the summer coming out of the pandemic, but it looks like we're in a solid place this year, which is really exciting for me. So yeah, I just wanted to share that piece of good news. So right now we are on trajectory to be able to operate the pool at full capacity. The second piece of that would also be, as swimming lessons do fill up, we do have the capacity this year to have an ongoing review of the swimming lessons. So if we need to add more spots, we're in a better position this year to be able to do that. So I just wanted to share that. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Fantastic. My kids will, I'm going to go home and tell my kids, and they're going to be so happy that it's fully staffed, because the slide will be open every night when we're there. Because that was always the first thing to shut down was the slide. And then the second thing to shut down was the diving board. And then they're just swimming around in circles. So very good. Is there any questions? Anyone? I mean, it's just an information piece. So I'll move on to the next one is 8.4, the arena permits. Again, Stephanie Jarvis, pro supervisor, to speak on arena permits.
Yeah, I just thought I would share another update. So historically, we've always had our permits start to be processed in May. So we're going to get a target for May to reach out to our user groups to get their requests for this year shortly. So probably by mid-May, we'll have that request shared with all form shared with all of our user groups. And then we're working with the Canada Games Park, the City of St. Catharines, and Brock University for allocations for next year for City of Thorold users up at that facility, as well as the Doherty Arena. So it's just, again, more of information than anything, that's kind of the plan moving forward. And then hopefully, as we go into future years, we'll be able to get that permit process facilitated sooner in April. But as of right now, just, working through some of the kinks of the new agreement that we're getting on track right now around May.
Right. Thanks. Questions? Comments? Peter.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a question on that. Is our allocation the same as it was last year? Do you know? In amongst those, in amongst that group there?
Yes, you, Mr. Sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair. The allocation as of right now is the same. That being said, all of the consortium partners, ourselves, St. Catharines and Brock University, are going to look at the needs of our user groups and evaluate to see if there's any efficiencies. I know Canada Games Park is bringing an allocation proposal forward to help better guide all of the different user groups and the consortium partners. But as of right now, we have the exact same amount of hours and the exact same hours that we had previous years. And that won't change. The only thing that would possibly change would be to find some efficiencies within this current schedules to better optimize the usage.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't really understand
Those
what,
allocations include the extra time at the end of the season for the senior skates?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the allocations currently are inclusive of September till the end of March, because that's where our allocations would have lived with the White Arena, and that's what the consortium agreement is committed to. So any bookings that extend beyond that time or before that time, so for example, if the arena were to early in August, would not be City of Thorold allocations, they would be separate.
But they will be leaving the ice surface on for that.
We have a number of community groups or community organizations that have requested extra time and that work with the Canada Games Park directly to accommodate those times. If there was a request to go through the City of Thorold for additional allocations or subsidies or anything like that, it would have to go through council.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So it came up at a meeting and they're looking at extending it for those needs next year. This was just the original initial before they knew anything set up. So could be that way. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? I said, or okay, I've got one comment. I mean, for the ice time, the allocation and everything done, I did hear during, I think it was last council meeting, that there's a third dressing room now available at the Brock Canada Games Park. And we did have a lot of unused ice time. Has anyone thought maybe to bringing like maybe Niagara North, the AAA team, because we are feeder system for that team now, maybe bringing them into Walkers and have them occupy some of the ice time that we're not using, or then we have a AAA. Mr. Sentence.
Well, we did talk about different options that could be a team coming back to Thorold. Could be, there was interest from a few teams of coming to Thorold.
Okay.
And utilizing that space in that room and the unused ice time to optimize it, like they said, and maybe moving things around so we don't have unused ice. But yeah, it's being discussed.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, any further discussion points? Looking online, don't see any hands. We're going to move on to 8.5, the sports fields. Again, I'm going to turn to Ms. Jarvis.
Sorry, it's the time of year for updates. Through you, Mr. Chair, just giving an update regarding our sports field usage. So we're currently, we've filled most of our permits. We reached out to our user groups back in January to get those permit requests, and we started working on the schedule. Normally it's this time of year that we do an evaluation of the fields to determine their usability for our user groups. And, you know, unfortunately this year we have had a lot of rain. So, you know, we kind of have to base our scheduling on whether or not field conditions allow. So right now we're looking at a week-to-week basis to see when we can actually start booking out the fields. Right now we're going to take an evaluation this Wednesday for this following weekend, but then our goal is to have the fields used by May 15th, weather dependent, and if earlier, then we'll book them earlier. We have our regular user groups back using fields, and pretty much we've facilitated those schedules. So it's, again, just more of an update than anything.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I mean, it's more of an update. So we're going to move to 8.6 is the Thorold Community Activity Group volleyball courts. I know this was added very late to the agenda. I'm going to call on Councillor Sentence for the update.
Yeah, I really appreciate you adding this, Chair, and Stephanie, thank you. So all the TCAG is looking for is a recommendation from this committee to go to council to look into the possibility of putting the courts there. Again, it's going to be $0 on the city side. TCAG is paying for the whole thing. There just might be some in kind with land, and there might be some engineering that we have to follow from the city. So we're just asking for a recommendation to go forward so we can get the ball rolling on putting those courts in. Thank you.
Mr. Vanderwas?
I may be wrong, but I thought we passed this last term in this committee.
No, I asked it at the end if you guys could consider this for this meeting so that we could put a recommendation through.
I mean, last term, like 4 years ago.
I don't recall that, but I know we went out there with Curtis and took a look around and everything, but
Well, I'd like to recommend that staff be instructed to write a report on installing their beach volleyball, right? Yeah, beach volleyball courts in Richmond Street Park.
Okay, can I,
And at the recommendation of this committee.
all right, can I get a seconder? All right, Ms. Ishwood? All in favor? Okay. All opposed? And that would be passed. Okay. So next thing, I'm gonna move on to our roundtable discussion. Just anyone have anything that they maybe part of their work plan or part of something that they just want to bring up now? I see a hand up. I think it's Jeff.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just by way of reminder, Ian and I are on a working group for improving the website content, and we would welcome any additional committee member to join us. You don't have to have you don't have to be a webmaster. You just have to recognize there's room for improvement on the website. And in terms of a time commitment, you'd be looking at maybe 4 or 5 hours in total, spread out over several months. So if you could lend us a hand, we'd greatly appreciate it. And if that's the case, kindly let me know or Ian know this week. Otherwise, our work is underway, and as agreed, we'll get back with recommendations to the committee in approximately 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, like I said, it's open invitation to Ian and Jeff. Anyone wanting to join the subcommittee working group for the website design. So this is basically for like the parks and trails and the rec website. Any other discussion points? I know we mentioned previously about the, Beaver Dams Park. There was a few things that people had brought up. Is there any debate, discussion on that and moving forward? Do we want to make any recommendations to council or? Not sure. Well, we had a few points. I mean, Marcia had mentioned the pavilion, its usability, the mounding in the parks, portions of fencing along where it's with Lark One that are, who owns the fencing around the park between between sort of Lark One and the apartment building and the old folks home that's sort of on the Ormond Street side, the park side. I see we've closed some entrances going into Prince of Wales School. There was one going into the apartment building, just things like that. Mr. Vandermas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move for a recommendation that council asks staff to to look into the feasibility of removing the berm in the park. The entire reason for the change or the removal of the wall and putting in the steel fence was so that there would be a clear view of what was going on at the band shell. And this berm defeats that entire purpose, and therefore I'm recommending that council direct staff to bring back a report on the feasibility of removing it.
Counselor Sentence.
Can I add a friendly amendment or add something to your motion? That we put in there the feasibility of replacing the fountain as well. I know it's not it's an expensive thing, but if we're going to do the mound, let's do the fountain as well.
Like I mentioned that before, the fountain's actually running the wrong way. It
Yeah.
empties at lock 7 instead of emptying down at lock
I didn't
1.
even know that. It just, to
Just
me, it's
saying.
underwhelming. Yeah.
So
Okay, well, there you go, even more so. Just something that's more traditional with water you can hear and
yep, I'd like to add to that as well, because I'd like to see sort of the tender drawings, the IFC, the issued for construction drawings that were provided to see if there was actually even these mounds incorporated and what sort of fountain was incorporated and what was actually built. That's something I'd like to see, because it just, there's a few things that, I mean, it sort of defeats the purpose, as you were saying, with the berm and the fountain. I actually, to myself, I grew up across the street, my parents' house directly across the street from the park. I moved from there to the other side of the park. I've never left that block in my entire life. So I spent a lot of time in that park, and that fountain that we had previously I had no issues with it. It was great, fantastic. So definitely add to that. Is there anyone from online? I see Marcia, you have your hand up.
You know how I feel about the pavilion. I spent the time there doing the eco cleanup, and it rained and we didn't have much protection from the rain as we set up there. But that's just mine. The master plan is online, just so everyone knows too, if they'd like to look at it from their original drawing that we did time ago.
I'll accept all those things as friendly amendments if the speakers wish to make them so.
Agreed. So Sydney, do you have that all in writing? Okay, perfect. So Mr. Woods.
I just wanted to add, if we're recommending like a review of what was constructed and going forward, can we add in like what is the maintenance standards required for like the repainting of the interior, like of that actual band shell? Because every time I go there, there's new graffiti
Well, I believe that's a city-owned thing, so we could have somebody from Public Works or somebody from the city go in and repaint that. And hopefully it's one of those things that you can repaint it within a day. So then the people, start getting discouraged about doing it because they know it's just going to get painted over. So
there's a policy that it has to be done within, don't quote me on the hours, but any graffiti, well, look at South Confed there, that it has.
It's last night or just on the weekend.
Yeah, so there is a time frame that it has to be addressed within.
Does the city have any sort of agreement with, like, say, Hydro One or Bell with graffiti on their boxes, like a Bell box on the street, like, or is something we could say, hey, Bell, if city trucks driving by and one of your green boxes are spray painted, can we paint over it?
So yeah, I don't know if there's an official agreement, but I had somebody contact me. Somebody contacted me about the boxes a while ago. I actually called Bell, never been a fan of Bell getting their service and everything. I called them up. They were pretty good. So I called them up and said, here's the boxes that were graffitied. And they came out pretty quick after and repainted over them. I don't know if we ever got permission to do it ourselves, but they were actually pretty good about it.
It's one of those things, like the city trucks driving by and they have a can of paint in their car.
Yeah.
$40 for a can of paint, about 15 minutes to go over and just.
It comes down to unions and
Oh, I know,
jobs and
definitely.
stuff like that. So, but they were a phone call away from saying, okay, we'll come out and fix it.
Perfect. Any other talking points with graffiti? Anything else about parks? Anything else with rec? No, any other parks?
You also have to call the question.
Pardon me?
You just have to call the question on that motion.
Have to call the question. Oh, so, can we get a mover and a seconder
We have
for,
that. Yeah.
we moved second and a vote? All in favor? Sorry, all opposed and passed. Okay, any other discussions? Mr. Woods?
Just to touch base again on Memorial Park. I just did a quick scope of it. I did share an aerial photo. I'm not sure who's seen it. It was constructed in 1932. So if we're looking forward, it gives us a few years to work on some sort of project to revitalize it if the city wants to go that way. But you know, it's a stretch. So I don't know what our recommendation we can do in terms of asking council to look into it. But I'm willing to do like quantity takeoffs and an estimation for it if the council needs something to see before we present it or recommend it.
Okay, we're almost at the 100-year anniversary. Get to it by then.
That's why I thought might as well do it.
I don't know, it might be a good Mr. Manamas?
I just want to point out that I believe that park is designated by LACAC as it is now. A while back, the seniors had asked for a sidewalk to go right down to the memorial from the back of the building. And it was denied based on LACAC's recommendations. So that's just something you should bear in mind. You should probably talk to LACAC about that.
Yeah, okay, I'll reach out to them. Would they be, do you know if they'd be able to share their recommendation as to why they denied the seniors a pathway? Or is it just like they just said, nah, we don't think it'll work?
Oh, I'm sure they'll share that, yes.
Okay.
The chair now is Councillor O'Hare's wife, Anna.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions, comments, Mr. Sentence?
Last thing, just something for everybody to consider. This committee traditionally does not meet unless the chair calls it July and August. It's up to you, whatever you want to do, but that's what we did for the 4 years. And I guess they did that for the previous term as well. So up to you guys what you want to do there.
July
But
and August.
July and August, we reconvened in September unless it was necessary. And then the chair called the meeting.
Yeah, I guess because July and August, everyone's flat out in the city, that they're not going to take any recommendations in July and August if we're trying to build a park. So it kind of makes sense. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Woods.
My only question with that is based on the working group for the dog park design.
Yeah.
If that runs into like June and we have to make a recommendation to this, that would be, might have to wait like a week into July. Would that be what we're talking about? Like you would have to call
Yeah, well,
special
I think the subcommittee, because it would be like a working group of the committee, you would
Yeah.
have your own meeting. And then if it was something that needed to be brought to us to send council to recommend, we would probably call a short meeting, I would say, and maybe just something on Zoom just to push it through.
sounds fair.
Okay, yeah. All right. Stephanie.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I was just going to give a quick timeline. Dave Baldoni, the manager of community services, shared a timeline for the dog park as it stands right now. Should all the legal barriers not be an issue. So right now they're looking at starting hosting PIC in June. And then also going to tender in June. So I anticipate the working group would be meeting before that time to discuss the project. It could be after too, I don't know for sure, but that's just the timeline as it stands right now. So I don't know if that helps.
Okay. Thanks. Any further business? I see no hands. Okay. So our next meeting is scheduled for June 5th. at 7 p.m. And if there's no further business, then this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.